to remind everyone about the Shir and Sidkas HaTzadik, which will take place here at 9:15 this morning, Emir Hashem. Learning Hilchos Purim, in most cases, the day before Purim is Taanis Esther. Exactly 68% of the time. Taanis Esther is the day before Purim on Yud Gimel, and 32% of the time it's if Purim comes out on Sunday, so then it's a different shmooze, but this year it's on Thursday. Now, what is Taanis Esther? This is very important for us to know. What is Taanis Esther? So, simple pshat in Taanis Esther, probably what most people think, is that at the end of Megillas Esther, it tells us, Parak Tes, Pasuk Lamed Aleph, that Esther, they sent out the story to all of the different communities. Tichlev Esther Amalka Bas Avichail Mordechai Yehudi Eskol Toikev L'Kayim Isigeres HaPurim Azos. They send out the Igeres, the Megillah. Vayishlach Sorim Eskol El Kol Yehudim. They sent it out everywhere, all the communities. L'Kayim Ishimei HaPurim Eilu Bizmaneyem. That people should keep Purim. In other words, they canonized this idea that people should keep Purim. Kasher Kiyam Aleim Mordechai HaYehudi Esther Amalka, just like we did. Kasher Kimo al Navshim Valzarim Divrei Hatsoymos Vizakosam, and that we kept Purim and we fasted. So the Pashup shot is that we should fast because they fasted. It's a zecher of the Taanis Esther. Taanis Esther is Esther fasted, Mordechai fasted, so we would fast too. And in fact, that's exactly what the Rambam says. The Rambam says, Nagu, after, by the way, he talks about all the fast days which are in the Psukim. Arba Yemei Atzayim Hela Arein Mufurashim B'Kabbalah. In the Tanakh it says Tzayim Haravit, Tzayim HaChamishi, Tzayim HaShvi, Min Shivasar B'Tammuz, Tisha B'Av, those fast days that we're familiar with. Then the Rambam says, Adu Halacha V'Nagu Kol Yisrael B'Zmanim Elu Lisanois. There's another category of fasts which are minhag. B'shloisha Asar Ba'Adar, and that would be the 13th of Adar. Zecher, why do we fast on the 13th of Adar? Zecher l'taylish hisadu b'mei haman shenemar, because it says in the pasuk that I just read to you, divrei hatzaymos v'zakosam. So the Rambam says before that the reason to fast on Taanis Esther, which seems simple and obvious to everybody, is because that's how they fasted, and we're keeping Purim, we're doing what they did. That's what the Rambam says, that's what the pasuk says. Interesting thing about Taanis Esther, though, is that in the whole Mishnah, the whole Gemara, you're not going to find Taanis Esther. There's no such thing as Taanis Esther. It doesn't exist. So therefore, the Rambam is compelled to say, no, there is such a minhag. Not only does it not exist in the Gemara, but in fact, in the times that we kept Megillas Taanis, which was all the way up till the Churban Bayis Sheni. Don't forget, the Purim was between the Bayis Rishon and the Bayis Sheni. But all that time, that we were, until the end of the Bayis Sheni, we went with Megillas Taanis. We went with the minhagim of Klal Yisrael, where different days you were not allowed to fast. One of them was Yud Gimel Adar. You weren't allowed to fast on Yud Gimel Adar, and the reason it was that was Yom Nikanor. That was a holiday. Batla Megillas Taanis. Hilchos Batla Megillas Taanis, so we're not concerned any longer about that. But it turned into a fast. But it's not a Mishnah fast. It's not a Gemara fast. The Rambam mentions it. Rashi mentions it. That's what they did by the Yom Knisa on Yud Gimel. Rabbi Yaacov explains it, but it receives the status of a minhag, not the regular din of other fast days. However, the Rambam is alone when he says that it has to do with that fast that they made divrei, even though it sounds like that in the pasuk, divrei atzaymos v'zakosam, Rashi and Rabbi Yaacov, they all say something different. That this is not about that. What this fast on Taanis Esther was, that we know that on Yud Gimel Adar, we were the Jews of Persia at that time. Were allowed to try to overturn, or we did successfully, miraculously, overturn the Gzeres Hashmad. You see, everybody knows the story that Achashverosh said that on Purim, everybody's allowed to kill Jews. Pogrom. that could not be overturned according to Achashverosh. Zera that I made, I can't overturn. But what I can do is I can say you're allowed to fight back. So you say we needed permission from the world emperors and kings to be able to defend ourselves and fight back. And I'm sure at that time when we did that was called a genocide. But the fact of the matter is we were allowed to fight back, and we miraculously turned everything around in the Hafachu. We turned everything around that people were intimidated by the Jews, and when we went to fight, this is what Rashi, Rabbi Yaakov, the Mishnah Berurah, all say, when we went to fight, we all gathered to fight in preparation. It was a frightening day. Who knows who we're going to win? It's hard to know. So we all fasted, as was the minhag always to fast before we go into Milchama. Not necessarily the soldiers fast because they need the koach, but the whole community would fast because we're going into a Milchama. This is so historical and relevant. So the first thing you got to do when you're going to go into this kind of Milchama, which is what it was, a defense Milchama, we all have to fast, and that says the Rabbi Yaakov, Rashi, in fact, Masechta Sefer, the Mishnah Berurah quotes, that is the fast of Taanis Esther. What does all this mean? Machlokes, in other words, the Rambam says it comes from the pasuk, and still a minhag, but it comes from the pasuk, and the Shulchan Aruch seems to say that it's just it's less than the pasuk. It's a minhag that at that time we fasted because we went into a war, and we remember the war that we went into, and therefore we fast. That's not the Taanis Esther. Nothing. It's not Taanis Esther that we know about. It's a Taanis Milchama that happened in the times of Mordechai and Esther, not the ones that are talking about in the pasuk here. Therefore, to tie that all up, the Shulchan Aruch tells us, Shulchan Aruch in Taf Reish Pei Vav says very simply, Misadid b'Yud Gimel ba'Adar. We fast on Yud Gimel Adar. It seems the Mechaber usually goes with the Rambam, but the Rambam says, this is not like every other fast that's a chayva. It's not written in the psukim at all. It's much more lenient. This fast is much more lenient than other fasts. For instance, pregnant women don't even think about fasting. If you're pregnant, don't fast. If you're nursing, don't fast. If you have a headache, don't fast. If it's in any way unhealthy for you, meaning a doctor says it's unhealthy for you to fast, which, by the way, let me just say one last thing, that I'm not a doctor and I'm not such a posek to say, but I just want to throw out there that it used to be, according to everybody, unhealthy to fast. Today, intermittent fasting is what healthy people do. Somebody just told me yesterday that I fast 18 hours. In other words, he eats dinner at 6 and he eats noon the next day. Like intermittent fasting, that's why he's in such good shape. So this is less of a fast than 18 hours. So like this could be this thinking of, it's not healthy for me to fast under all circumstances, might not even be true to begin with, that it's unhealthy to me to fast. I'm intimidated by the doctors that are here, but I'm just throwing that out there. Could be that the thinking is different these days. However, if the fast is going to damage them or make them seriously uncomfortable, more uncomfortable than everybody else, so says the Rabbah, you can be more makel on Taanis Esther than others because it's not written in the Mishnah, it's not written in the Gemara. It's simply a memorial for the fast they made before the war that they made to save themselves in Shushan.